What's up, guys? Welcome to another home theater hangout with me and Don. Today we have Mr. Steve from Cambridge Audio on tonight. What's up, Steve?
How you doing tonight, Shane? It's great to see you. Great to see you too, Don.
Yeah, man. He's my boy.
So, Steve, why don't you catch everybody up to speed on who Cambridge Audio is?
Well, let's give a little quick history back at a couple years ago and talk about 1968 when we launched our first integrated amplifier, right? We were one of the first people to ever use a toroidal power supply, and our stuff sounded great, right? So it was very game changing at the time when we released. And that's really what we've been known for is all these years, 55 years in the business making audio equipment as although some stuff has been cost no object almost type of products, but we are really a performance and a value driven company. And we're really into, it's really about how it sounds. Is it make that music sound, right? It's not just about specs to us. It's really what's the performance and then where's the value proposition, you know? Our company is, in my opinion, a lot different than a lot of the audiophile or the audio companies that are out there right now. Um, we're really just a bunch of guys having fun, listening to music. And, when we go attend a show, I mean, that's really what we do is we go listen to every type of music, not just a few different tracks. And just have fun with all the people that we get to meet, whether it's people that have been in the industry for many years or people that are just coming into it. That's a
So,
little bit.
you guys had announced something new today, which I know a lot
Sure
of
did.
my subscribers are interested about.
Well, we just replaced an award-winning CXNV2 streaming unit, and I mean, the amount of awards that it has won has been unbelievable. In fact, it won DAC of the year uh, from 1,000 to $5,000 price point, but it was at 999. So it we didn't really consider it a DAC, but it was a great performing unit, and we replaced it with a new piece that even ups the performance now called the CXN100. Went on sale today. It's 1099. Has a little bit larger screen. Has a new generation of our Stream Magic app. We now have gone down from a twin D to A converter to a single to be able to eliminate out more items out of the signal path to be able to make it sound better and perform better. Um, does MQA, unfolds MQA. Our products are really the universal product, however that you want to listen to music, right? When you talk about Room, when you talk about Cobuzz, Apple Play 2, Chromecast, our stuff just plays well with everybody.
And can't you also go on a hard drive that has FLAC and music and add the metadata
Absolutely.
and stream that in?
And now we've updated a brand new release of metadata for stuff if it's not already loaded onto the USB, right? We can recognize that, especially with different compilations that are coming out. So, and with our Stream Magic app, with our Gen 4, it gives us a lot more flexibility as far as for multi-room capabilities.
You know, if I could just say a couple words about Cambridge, being in the business forever and a day, I'd heard some Cambridge stuff, always read reviews, seen the ads. Over the years, Cambridge has been around longer than I have, which is saying something. Um, but when I went to the Audio Vice show last year, and you're going around to the different rooms, like we go to all the audio shows, and you go in, and every room has a little bit different vibe or feel to it, man. And I went in there, and like it was all decorated with like British posters and music albums. A set of what Kef Meta 50s or the little Metas. Is that what you had in
Yes.
there? Um,
Uh-huh.
with an Evo 150 power in it, a turntable. I mean, it was like a completely different vibe. You guys had the best swag at the show, but
Well,
just
thanks.
the warmth and the smiles and the love of talking about music, and it was like a flat. It was a cool setup, and it was like being in a flat in Britain, And you guys, you're like, you want wine, beer, you want some bourbon? I'm like, really? Yeah, of course. It was just cool, man. It was, and I just hung out there and then left and came back and hung out some more. Then I went and grabbed Gene, and I'm like, Gene, you got to go down and meet these people, man. You know, Shane came, we had the whole, everybody was there. It was just a good vibe. Then subsequently, I've received some Cambridge equipment to demo and for evaluation, which I'll talk about how much I love the product and why. But really looking at the website and seeing every question and everything answered by the staff at Cambridge, and the newsletters where you're talking about music and new songs and jams, not just shoving a new product down everybody's throat. It's a different kind of company. There's a particular culture that I think Cambridge has. Meeting your two guys from England at Cedia, how cool they were, some of the products they were talking about. Just everybody there just seems cool, man. Like what audio should be about for the love of it. The value of the product is unquestionable. I one of my things I've been doing for the last year and a half, 2 years, is really kind of reviewing and checking out, evaluating integrated amps. I've had Krell, Heigl, the 390, Yamaha, $8,000 Yamaha piece, Name, NAD. I mean, all fantastic products, absolutely fantastic. And all those products go from about $5,600 to $10,000. You know, Steve was kind enough to send me the Evo 150, and I was just, it's a cool looking piece. It's got side panels with magnets on it that change. And I looked at the jack pack on the back and the flexibility. It's got phono stage inputs on it. It's got eARC, HDMI. It's got subwoofer output. It's got all kinds of inputs and outputs, analog and digital. It's got two sets of speaker terminals, so you could power 4 speakers. It's Rune ready. It does the full MQA peel back if you do Tidal. It the stream. What is the name of it? Sorry, I'm sorry, Steve.
Stream
The
Magic.
Stream
Stream
Magic.
Magic app.
Kick ass app. Just a great, fantastic app. Easy to use. Brought everything into it. It was super easy to set up. And I haven't used all the features yet. I haven't done anything from a hard drive or set it up with Rune yet. But I mean, it's real. I don't know what you could include, honestly, in a any kind of integrated amp in any size. And this thing's tiny, and it's not just tiny. It's got the Hypex Class D amplification built into it, which is used by NAD and some other companies. Hypex is one of the best, if not the best, along with Pascal and Ice Power. Some of the other Class D modules that are out now, 150 watts a channel and 8 ohms. What is it in 4 ohms, Steve? I think you told me, but
Between 250 and 270, give or take.
270. Okay, so I mean, tons of power. I've powered a multitude of different speakers, including some pretty hard to drive towers with like a 4 and 5 ohm impedance. It's a killer piece. I really really love this piece. I enjoy it. My girlfriend likes to use it. It's easy. It's just a home run. I just think it should be all over the media even more. I mean, it's just that good. If I can mention it in the same breath as Name and some of these other NAD, Krell, Heigl, at substantially less money than all the ones I just mentioned, that's a true value. And I think that's something you can use you can use it in a multi-room system, correct, Steve?
Yes.
Yeah, so you could have a few different amps, Evo 75, Evo 150 set up if you wanted to do distributed audio on little bookshelves. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents on my experience with Cambridge Audio. Really fallen in love with the company in a lot of ways. They're just good people, man.
Well, thank you very much. That really means a lot, Don. And yeah, and I really think that you hit the nail on the head when you say each one of those brands, because
They're
I agree
killer.
with you.
Every one of them.
They
I
are the
mean,
best of the best that is out there. And when you can go and hang head to head and perform, and I don't think anybody does as great of a job on the app as we do, right? I mean, our stuff just, if somebody's going to set it up themselves, it works out
it's a good
fine.
app. It was very easy to set up. I mean, I love Blue Sounds app. The
Yes.
Name app was pretty good. Every people have their own apps, but yours is among my favorite. It's super easy to use, super easy to set up. almost sets itself up.
Yeah. Yeah, we made it, our goal was not only to be able to make that performance, but to be able to make it so that it was an everyday use of a piece of equipment, right? And when it's really user friendly and people enjoy the interface on it, and oh yeah, it works with that. Well, what about Bluetooth? Oh yeah, it works with that, right? So it's always yes, no problem, right? What do
Everything.
you have to you? However you want to listen to it. You have friends over and they want to put their phone to it, no problem, right? And and it's just an overall great performing. Yeah, it'll do that too. Can it run low impedance speakers? Yeah. Can it run towers? Sure can. Does it rock bookshelves? Does that too, right?
Hmm. Oh,
So
it's got all kinds of rhymes with talls. It's very powerful. It's a good amp, and I think even old hairy eared old men audiophiles could set it up. I say that lovingly.
well, that's kind of like you and I. We're kind of old harried men audiophiles,
Yeah,
right? By now.
speak
Change
for
the
yourself,
young
little
one.
fella. Yeah.
Ain't that young?
He's like a professional bodybuilder, by the way. So you know. I mean, he came over, we hung out and had dinner, and we are hanging out. He's like, "Can I take my shirt off and oil up?" I'm like, "Come on, whatever, dude. Whatever floats your boat." No, it's the culture, man. I- when you buy
Yes,
into a product, I think to an extent you buy into the culture. I would like to think
I
so.
agree.
Everybody has their spin on what they do, and the whole Cambridge experience for me was about the music. It was about fellowship and brotherhood and listening and sisterhood, whatever. Have a little setup in there. You didn't have a big towers with $30,000 cables and this and that. I mean, it was like appropriate for the room, and it was cool. I felt like I was in somebody's, flat in England hanging out. It was a great experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. We really enjoy kind of doing stuff like that. And when we were at CES, what did we do? We rented a house and cooked food for people to come on over and listen
Did
to
you?
music, right?
That's cool.
Yeah. And once again, we had some bourbon and tequila, wine,
I'm sure.
but it was
Yeah.
really, it was really
Steve doesn't
about
drink, by the way, so
it
body
was
drink.
really about just saying thanks to the dealers rather than trying to go and sell them a bunch more stuff. Hey, come on, relax, sit down. You've been on your feet all day. Let's just listen to some music and eat some food, right? And
Yeah,
that
I
was,
mean that little room
and
sounded good though. I have to give you that. Those little kefs are amazing. Those kef metas, is that what they are? The metas, the
yeah,
50s or whatever.
50
Yeah,
minutes.
that's a really and just a good looking speaker too. I mean, I just think they're cool. I think Kef puts out some cool stuff, man. Not to
Yeah, we
shut up
partner up
Kef,
with them
but
for quite a few shows, right?
have you?
So we did Expono with them together, and we shared some stuff at Audio Advice. So Expono this year we'll probably be doing some of the same again, and no doubt at Audio Advice Live when we're attending that show, we'll be doing it, right?
Yeah.
Because there again, it's especially when you take a look at their product, and to me, it's another high value product at its price point, right?
Mhm.
And I think it fits a lot of people's needs for, ease of setup, ease of use, consistent sound quality across the room, the imaging on it, So we
Well, I
like
mean,
partnering up with
your
that.
top of the line class AB product, while in no measurable sense cheap, I think for what you get with those products, it's a pretty good value in the realm of high end audio. I think your everything you make's under 10 grand, as far as I know, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, our most expensive piece is $6,500. Our
Yeah.
mono blocks are 47.49, which is, and when you take a look at and compare specs and the sound quality, I mean, it's not in a $4,700 amp category. It's, in the $10,000 price category, really is where the performance is and onward. And a lot of people are really shocked when they sit down and they listen to our Edge stuff because although in the world of hi-fi and ultra high end, $4,700 for a monoblock is really entry type of into what people
Yeah,
consider hi-fi.
yeah.
I mean, to us, it was a real serious quest, and that was, as far as on our 50th anniversary, what do we do? Let's do something special with the building the best possible equipment that we can. I love the sound of it. I mean, very
You know,
detailed. It's a very high current.
some
You
cool
know,
features and things you guys do, like on your turntables. You have two models that have Bluetooth built into them. That's
aptX HD too.
yeah. I mean
So it's a
that's
good
cool.
sounding Bluetooth.
Yeah, that's super cool. Then a lot of people are Bluetooth, and the millennials and the generation use Bluetooth. And if you wanted to put on an album and put your headphones on, and if you had some, you guys don't make headphones, do you?
I wouldn't say that we don't make headphones.
Okay.
Your
We do have some
buds.
earbuds,
Your
Yeah,
buds,
some
yeah.
and
earbuds. Okay.
you know, I think as a company, my personal preference is I think that a company like us needs to be able to have a full offering for your dedicated customers
Sure.
that really love the Cambridge audio sound. So how do you really complement your electronics? Maybe it might be building a set of headphones that offer the same type of performance and sound quality, right? It's not going to be the mass type of, the new beats, but for the Cambridge audio customer, I think that it's something that we really need to be able to reach out and, kind of take care of what our customers are asking for. So that may be a little bit of poetic foreshadowing. Could happen.
Poetic. It's like
Uh-oh.
reading my crystal ball. What
Breaking
can I do?
news.
Steve's like, I'm gonna kick your ass later. Put me on a spot again. Um, a lot of lifestyle products. You see a lot of traditional high-end speaker brands, B&W, Focal, the list goes on, coming out with lifestyle products. Streaming little speakers, are all in ones that to give you a step above a Sonos or some of the other fodder that the general public, what the muggles use now. Um, and headphones are just a suggestion of that. Turntables. I mean, it's cool. Kind of this whole retro thing going back to audio that's happened in the last few years. I think it's super cool.
Right. And I think it's really great that a lot of companies are really, embracing their customers, right? To be able to build more things for their customers that have been brand loyal for many years. And I mean, you take a look at, there are a lot of people who, you know, hadn't switched brands in audio business for many years. And, you know, I think that there's a special reward when a manufacturer reaches out and says, we know you love our products. We want to be able to, provide more for you. Right. So
Very
it's a
cool.
it's a great thing for the consumer too, as well. Right.
No, totally. I mean, when I talk to my clients, somebody comes to me and says, blah blah blah. I want great sound. I don't want to study up and be an expert on audio, but I don't want to spend a gazillion dollars either because the sky's the limit. So I always try to bring people to. Everybody knows what the term diminishing returns is, right? Once you reach a
Yep.
certain point in performance, anything above that, even incremental increases in performance, cost exponentially more money. So if you buy a $30,000 amp and you got a $6,000 amp, it's maybe a little better as it should be for 30 grand, but it's not going to be game changing. And thinking about Cambridge early on, I was like, man, these guys kind of live in that giving you this super high end sound, comparable, if not better than many of the more expensive products, but at a reasonable price. And that's a big deal in this economy.
Steve, Bertha just said you're a beast.
Who did?
Gene's wife.
Who did? Oh, Bertha. He is a beast.
She's a wonderful woman, Berta. I enjoyed hanging out with her over in Tampa when we
She's a
were
doll, and she
visiting.
she she might be the nicest woman on the planet. Put up with him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you got to be a saint to put up with Gene, right?
He's pretty easy breezy, man. So Shane,
He's
what was your
wonderful.
experience with that DAC that you were reviewing
Well,
for
let's go
Cambridge?
back to the to the new
Okay.
product first. I see you
All
guys
right.
upgraded the DAC in there. You went from two Wolfsons to a single Saber. Was the reasoning behind that?
That is a really high performance DAC. That's that ESS 9028 Q2M, right? And so at the time when we built the CXNV2, there wasn't a single DAC that we could find that had the performance or the speed. So it was necessary to use two. But once you go and you go down to one DAC, you simplify the signal path. And as you know, the more things that we can remove out of that signal path, the better sound quality that we can get, right? And when we were developing this piece, it wasn't just pick a part and throw it in because the part specs well. It was, let's put this in, let's see how it sounds, and compare it to what it sounded like previously. So this took a lot of listening hours for us to be able to figure out what was the best sounding DAC at that type of a price point for us to use in it. And I mean, our CXNV2, that was not a slouch in a streaming unit. I mean, it sounded great. But this is, there is, if you A B the two and you listen to that same track, there is a big difference in I would say that it just becomes really a lot more dynamic. I mean, the black is a little bit blacker, the level of noise, you can tell it goes noticeably down. There was a big change in that, you know.
Hmm.
So that was one of the reasons why we changed to a single DAC.
Interesting. And I see you got a bunch of other upgrades here from the older model as well. Higher resolution PCM native playback, as well as DSD, and then obviously the bigger screen. There was a question here. Was there a reason why there is no multi-channel DSD playback?
There isn't a reason yet. And is it on our radar? Yes, it is, but I don't know if we're exactly ready for it quite yet. Some of the stuff is software upgradable, like when we went and changed it so you kind of fixed and variable. A lot of our stuff through our Stream Magic app and now our fourth generation allows us to be able to do a lot of software updates on the fly that wasn't necessarily available previously.
Right, right, right. And is this available now? Where can they get this?
You know, we have about 150 dealers nationwide. If you there, it is sold on Amazon. It is sold through many of our retailers, Worldwide Stereo, the Music Room, uh,
I think audio advice is a big place.
Audio Advice, Listen Up, right? So a lot of every one of the big players that's out there as far as on sells our products.
Would you say that Cambridge has a specific sound to it, to them?
Most definitely. And it's hard to be able to put in words exactly. But when I listen to it, and what I really like about it is the detail on it, that the bass is tight, right? So that you can hear every bass note playing. And, sometimes I listen to some relatively high end amplifiers, but they become a little exaggerated on the high end. Our stuff is really flat.
Yeah.
Although it's dynamic, it really doesn't color the music anything or make it any brighter than it once was.
I would concur with that,
Just
and several
yeah.
reviews would say the same thing. That it's very analytical, very flat.
Yeah. Uh, a big open sound is what I like to be able to say, but on the bottom end of it and the bass end, it's very controlled. I mean, sometimes I think some stuff gets a little bit thumpy on the bottom end. And, I mean, when I listen to music, and I listen to all kinds of music. I mean, it's not just a single type of an audio track that I like to listen to. I mean, I listen to music all the time. And, I mean, sometimes I kind of just lose myself, listen to the bass player play, right? I'm not really listening to the less rest of it play because, I'm just kind of really involved into that part of the song, you know, or sometimes it's vocal. Another
Hmm.
thing that I like about our stuff is that our stuff really sounds good. And this is what I think is a really great example of Cambridge Sound, where you can listen to our music and it sounds good and you can have a conversation with somebody inside the room and it still sounds great, right? Some stuff, once you crank it up, it really you say, wow, there it is right then and there. But ours, even at lower volumes, it still has that same dynamic. Wouldn't you agree with that, Don?
Totally. Totally. And I can only speak of the Evo 150. It's I can't turn it up past 65, 70. I mean, with hard to drive speakers, it has the sauce for sure. Again, class. I'm a huge proponent of Class D. I know a lot of people um, still prefer the sound of AB or whatnot. It's come so far. I mean, really, Class D. It runs cool. It gives you a smaller chassis, and it gives you just crazy dynamic power.
Yeah.
Well, I reviewed the NQ with the monoblocks, and then the Edge. I forgot the stereo amp as well. I forgot what model number that was, but I
Edge
think
W.
the Edge W. I did that one as well, and they all definitely sounded the same. Have a similar sound to them. I always thought it sounded neutral, warm, neutral, kind of in that ballpark there. And I always found like pairing it with different speakers, with brighter speakers. I really liked the Cambridge stuff with the brighter speakers, like the Focals that everything I reviewed the Canta threes, which I found kind of overbearingly bright. But luckily, I did have the monoblocks on hand, and that definitely tamed them for sure. Because I did that with the Cantas with the Hagel, and I was just like,
Right.
man, that's just yeah, it's not a good pairing with those speakers, but it sounded great with the
I have
Cambridge.
to disagree, sir.
Well, my ears are a little bit younger, so I would have to say that for sure Cambridge tame those vocals
You want a
down.
lollipop, young man?
So
Well,
so
and
yeah,
and
is-
and you have a good advantage that you can be in a what I like to say a sterile room. A room that you can listen to and change out equipment and the acoustics of your room remains the same. And a lot of times I'm out inside a showroom
yeah.
listening or A-Bing stuff where I don't get that familiarity of the room to start with of how it really sounds. So I think that you can be a lot more quantitative in your listening evaluations, even more so than I, right? Because I'm not listening to it at its best type of moments, but also, it's I've met a lot of customers around where I put an edge piece in and it's immediately their favorite demo piece that's on, right? I can't believe how great it sounds, right? So it's it's a very great product for the money, right?
Is there
And
what about a more powerful integrated amp to go along with the CXN 100?
you know, I think that we really need one as a company. I think that we need to have somewhere in that type of a price where we need to have something a little bit above it. And I am kind of hoping that this year at Munich's audio show that I hope that we have some really big announcements that are going to be a lot of press releases, a lot of really cool stuff, then people are going to be going, "Wow, I've been waiting for
You
this
mean
for a
you
while."
hope or you just would you tell us you'd have to kill it? I'd have to
I sure
smack
hope it happens.
it.
So would you say
Yeah.
as far as like all the audio brands out there, like all the companies and all that, I would say that Cambridge is kind of like definitely one of the more bang for your buck kind of things, where they had the different price points, where it's not like an exuberant amount of money for just to get incrementally better. Like your stuff is really good from, I want to say, the lower price points all the way up without going like super overboard. And the Edge, I had them for a couple of years. I thought they're like the best looking, as far as like build quality wise, just like some sick looking. The Edge is like the best, one of the best looking pieces of gear out there.
They are really nice. I agree
Yeah.
with you on that. And and I mean, here's the way we look at things about building our equipment. It is so super critical for us to be able to build a really good product at its price point because a lot of people are coming into the audio, right? And they might be getting out of a sound bar and now they want to go and they want to step into something better. And in our opinion, it is so critical for our products to be able to exceed these people's expectation because it makes them an audio person for life, right? And a lot of times we're talking to dealers and we go, look, I mean, what would really happen if everybody came home from work and listened to music for 30 minutes a day before they did anything else? Right? Where does your stress melt away? Because that's something that we in the industry do all the time, right? We come home, or part of our job is being able to listen to music and to sit there and relax and listen to music and enjoy it, right? So that's, what are the potentials on new customers coming into the audio industry? Well, in my opinion, it is bigger now than it ever has been. And part of that is because everybody has access to all this music now. And if
It's
you go
crazy.
walk into the gym, right, everybody is listening to music almost, right? There's 75% of the people are wearing earbuds, right? You walk through airports, right? People are listening to music. And for many years, before all this digital music came out, people didn't have as much access to it. And maybe they had 40 or 50 CDs, but they sat down and they listened. But now more people are engaged. They're more engaged with the music inside their car when they're driving to work because they can stream inside their car, they can, right? And stuff. So I think that it is a great time for the audio industry and ourselves to be able to have a huge growth period of people that want to get into not just regular sounding type music, just really get into something nice. And
Well,
that's why we're so critical, is because we're that stepping point. And without a great stepping point to be able to provide, and that's why we respond back to almost every comment that comes out. If we don't have a great experience for our customers, we could potentially lose that customer for the audio industry as a whole, right? Otherwise, we are that warm embrace welcoming them in and saying, "Hey, we're going to give you a better experience on your music of what you've had previously."
well, think about what you can do now. You can spend what 2600 bucks on an Evo 75 or one of the streaming amps that are out now. And let's talk about the industry as a whole and take it home, hook it up to your Wi-Fi, and buy a decent set of bookshelves, and you can get a pretty nice, pretty decent speakers now for the money. And in 15, 20 minutes, now you got a true hi-fi system. And as long as you stream like Tidal or Qobuz or one of the music services, you have access to pretty much every song ever made known to man at CD or better quality sound. If that's not a definition of renaissance in audio, I don't know what is. I mean, I back in the day we had to
Agreed.
have all kinds of products and power supplies and amps and cables, and it's pretty cool.
Right.
So,
I agree with you.
question for you, Steve. Cambridge being a very British company, What is the effect on the audio market in Britain and Europe, which I think's a little different than the states? You know, you got a lot more integrated amps and smaller systems and bookshelves. Do you think that that's a huge influence on the products that Cambridge makes?
Absolutely, it is. And also, but also, we're smart enough as a company to understand that the USA is a different marketplace.
Hmm.
And, you know, when you're talking about a room that has 4 or 5 rooms, or a home that has 4 or 5 rooms in it that are going to be listening to music, and there's music outside, and that is really a big draw. Well, that's a completely different marketplace than living in a small flat in London, right?
Sure.
And I think that, as a company, as we sit back and we look at things globally, but also on a country by country type basis, I think that there are times when you need to be able to kind of give the freedom to be able to create new and different types of products for US type markets.
Gotcha. Well, you know, the American market's dominated by Sonos and a multitude of other wireless sound bars and powered speakers. And listen, for a lot of people, they sound great. That's not a bad sounding piece of equipment. Sonos makes really good equipment for what they are. But until you compare that to a more high fidelity audio system, a separate amp, or powered speakers or whatever, I think you start. It's pretty apparent the sound difference on it. But I'd like to see more of that integrated, you know, streaming amp with a pair of speakers, maybe a turntable going with it. I think that I'd like to see more of that in the American market. I really would.
Right. I
You,
agree.
you,
Absolutely agree with you on that.
you know what I like to see? You guys sell a line of home theater speakers, and you guys used to sell a 4K Blu-ray player. Is there any point in time in the future that Cambridge is going to get back to making home theater products?
I knew it was.
Yeah. We were just talking about that the other day, a couple of us, and what's out in Blu-ray these days, and are there any possibilities, right? And
Yeah.
in my opinion, I think it's relatively simple to build because you're using the same type of transport that we use already in our CD players. So I'm hopeful that we can have something, I mean, I love Blu-ray, right? I
Well,
mean, there's a lot of
are
great things about it.
DVDs still a
What's that?
big thing in Europe and Asia? Because you can't even hardly find a place to buy them anymore. I mean, Walmart's got a terrible selection. I think Best Buy is going to stop selling them. You're starting to see that physical media market shrink in lieu of streaming or even a Kaleidoscape and a product like that.
Well, yes, I agree with you that that portion of the market is always going to, well, I shouldn't say it's always going to shrink because, you know, 25 years ago, if I would have told you albums are coming back, you would have told me that I'm crazy, right?
Huh? That's a good point.
And so I think the audio reinvents itself after exterminating good products. And, and I mean, I love the fact that vinyl is back. I love the fact that a lot of
Cool.
artists are releasing all their new stuff on vinyl, and that a lot of young people now are going out and buying their first turntable, right? And hey, it is a huge investment of your time to sit down and listen to an album, right?
Sure.
You get 27, 30 minutes out of a side of an album, you pull it out of that cover, and I don't care how many times that you listen to that album, you read that cover again, right? Or you look at the pictures
Oh,
while you're
yeah.
listening to it,
Or
right?
set the album cover up in front of the system while you're doing it.
Right.
You know, Steve is an
Process.
professional integrator. We do a lot of architectural stuff, you know, in ceiling
Right.
speakers and wall speakers, because that's what the market has evolved to. But
Yeah.
I try to break it down to my clients to two types of listening. One is passive listening, and one is active listening. Passive listening is still pretty popular, where you've got architectural speakers throughout a home sounds, it's background music. I mean, it sounds pretty good, and you could spend a lot of money and have it sound really good. But I mean, it's more or less people are entertaining, they're hanging out, whatnot. But I love the art of active listening, where you actually sit down in a space and focus on whether it's watching a movie in a theater or a 2 channel room. I love that part about it. You know, you pour a glass of wine or green tea or whatever you like, you dim the lights, put on an album. I mean, that's cool. I mean, and talk about stress relief. It really is. You know, I love to listen to my Danzig and Tool. No, I'm kidding. But it's a really great way to relax and get the stress off. And I think that we need more of that.
And I
I
think
agree.
people would love to watch a movie on a Cambridge 4K Blu-ray player. Again, at some
I
point in
agree with you
time.
on that too.
All ten of them would love it.
Yeah. I think there's a big market out there too, as far as on a decent type Blu-ray player. But I mean, when we launched a CD player itself, there's a lot of people that looked at us, why are you doing that? Right? Now we have three different models that are out,
Yep.
and they're one of the highest velocity SKUs that we have.
Really?
And, software, I mean, you can buy a used CD for $2 or $3, and there's a lot of them around right now. So, I think that there again, I think that the physical media is going to grow in the upcoming years because it was driven because everybody had access to be able to listen to a song, right? And people get turned on with this different music, but there again, it becomes something different when you're going to go and open up a CD player or a tray and then stick a disc in, push play, and go sit down and listen to your music, right? And that was all fueled by our enormous appetite to be able to have music wherever we go, right? And access to everything.
Yeah, and I mean, people like to collect. You know, I mean, obviously, I remember having my first CD player. I remember seeing my first CD player. An uncle of mine who had some means had a $900 CD player back in the day. It was cool. I had cassettes. I had even 8 tracks, showing my age. You know, it's cool the whole physical media and the whole experience of doing it. I just like sitting in a chair and on my phone, just picking whatever song. I'm like, oh man, what's this? Or Tidal has these great algorithms where they'll show you new music or whatnot. Sound quality wise, I don't really hear any difference between a great CD and streaming through Tidal, but I do understand the whole experience of it. You know, it's kind of organic.
Right.
What's the deal on your speakers? I mean, I don't hear too much about your speakers. Is that like a category you
Well,
guys don't push often, or?
we haven't. We haven't. And although that our speakers there again drive a great value for their performance and their price, but when as we kind of looked at them, is there anything that is really special about our speakers? They're kind of just a square or a rectangle type box, and they are some great looking or some great sounding speakers, especially for the money. And I think our floor standards are $800 a pair, and it is it does give you that great British sound quality. And but I think that if we're going to do something in the speaker realm in a bookshelf, I think that we should have something a little bit more than the square box if we're going to go in. What can we be a little bit more unique
Yeah, but it costs a lot of money
on
to
our
make
offer?
fancy cabinets. So.
It does, you know. So we're kind of on a crossroads right now as far as on do we move forward on bookshelves or do we just concentrate more on our Minx line, which are our little mini type separates with our subwoofers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those are
this these
cool.
guys here. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're definitely propose a good value proposition here because they're not incredibly expensive. And
And our sub,
you guys do have a home
yeah,
theater package as well.
Mhm.
yes, our subs sound
I
really good. I mean, it's a high gloss finish. looks really nice. You know, it doesn't look like a $500 sub. You know, it looks like a 12 or $1,500 sub, and it really does sound great. I mean, it hits
That's
deeper.
cool.
You know, so and you know, we're one of the few manufacturers that still make it in two different colors, right? A black and a white.
Are you going to have any equipment at the Florida Audio Expo? I know you're coming up to kind of hang out and whatnot.
We were a little late, and that was
Are
my
you?
fault as far as getting ready for Florida Audio Show. So we're only going to be roaming the floors and saying hi to everybody. So
That's
we
cool.
won't be bringing really any products with us, unless I got something in the back of my car.
Unless you got something in the
But
back of your car. Somebody happens to need something. I know a guy there. You know, we'll figure it out.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
cool. Well, you know, I've certainly enjoyed the product. And, you know, I'm pretty critical of stuff. I mean, you and I talked at length after I spent some time with it, and the Evo series is all I can really speak of. That's all I've actually had in my home and my systems to listen to. But I can only imagine. I've heard other stuff in different environments, but it's a fantastic product, Steve. Fantastic
Thank
company.
you.
They listen to their clients. They're interactive with their clients. You're probably more interactive than anybody I've ever seen with your clients, really, as far as a major player out there. I
Thank you.
mean, you go on their website and look at the reviews or the questions; they always answer them. But they just got that Austin Powers baby, yeah, that cool music vibe, man. I don't know what it is, dude. It's just I dig it. Everybody's super cool. That works for your company that I've met.
And there again, we really are not audiophiles per se, right? We are music lovers first, right?
Right.
And I mean, we put our music moment on our business cards where we decide, you know, hey, what's one piece of music that really impacted your life? And, you know, we break it down to the minutes and seconds, right? And, you know, and if somebody goes and listens to mine, it's a blank space, right? Well, what does that mean, right? And, you know, it's for me, it's all about the build up to that. All right. But I mean, to every one of us, you know, there is something about us that when we listen to music, it's not just try to find the three or four tracks that can make a system sound really good. It's about that everyday listening and getting involved in the music, you know.
Yeah. When we were at your room, we weren't sitting down asking, you know, what tracks to play. You just had good music playing at a little higher volume than, you know, like I like to listen to. It was just fun, man. It was a completely different vibe than any other booth that was at the audio show. It really was. You know, so much so that I went and grabbed Shane and Gene. Like, dude, you got to come down and meet these guys at Cambridge, man. They're the bomb. So, anyways, you know, not to be a fanboy, but I am a big fan of Cambridge and my experience with Cambridge, both as a just a audio enthusiast or a professional reviewer or an integrator. I mean, it's just good stuff.
I think that's questions for you, Steve.
And
Is the CXA81 good enough to drive the ATC SCM11 speakers?
well, and that was 12.99. It's 9.99. It's an extremely high current integrated amp. And I mean, when you go and you pick it up, there's a big Toro power supply on that left hand side. It will run a whole lot more than that. It's just like, you know, we surprise people when we hook Evo up to some really low impedance speakers and people hear it drive. You know, it is, in my opinion, I mean, it performs in the class of a $2,000 integrated amp. What about you, Don? You've heard, I think, the CXA81, haven't you?
Mm,
Or maybe
no,
not?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine it not being able to power just about any speaker. I mean, what does that mean, power a speaker? I mean, you can have a 30 watt a channel amp, power a speaker, power it right, power it correctly. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's got all kinds of juice on it. I mean,
Yeah, it should have no problem driving those speakers. And, you know, and there again, we make a little 35 watt per channel integrated amplifier that some of the people that I talked to, that was one of the first pieces of equipment that they ever bought, was a 35 watt per channel integrated amp from Cambridge Audio. And they were shocked at how good that it sounded. And me too. I take a look at this little, 35 watt per channel integrated amplifier that we take a look at, and I look at the build quality and I see this big toroid in it. And then you set it up. I mean, and it's unbelievable how good that it sounds on a piece of equipment.
Yeah, you
I,
can't just buy on specs, man. You got to listen. I got that name integrated and it's 70 watts a channel and it hangs with 150, 200 watt, 250. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
it hangs right with them, dude. I mean, you can't really just go by the wattage that they put out. You really should listen to
yeah.
them.
We make
So,
really, really high current products, right? So they'll drive a lot of stuff that any type of a receiver won't. Where or sometimes you need to go way up into the food chain to be able to drive them,
Sure.
and our stuff will run them. And that
There's always this audiophile, what I consider a wives' tale, that you need to spend at least as much on your amplification, your electronics as you do your speakers. I don't, dude. I'd put that $3,000 Evo 150. You heard them in my house on $16,000 pair of speakers. You heard it's driven $8,000 a pair of speakers. $10,000 pair RTIs out of the Baltic area. It's got plenty of power. I mean,
and listen to it on a pair of $22,000 speakers that were 4 ohms,
yeah.
and the guy was running it in the shop all day because
Oh, the Wilsons.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, there again,
Dude, think about that. A
we
three
really
thousand dollar amp with a streamer powering 20+ thousand dollar speakers. That's a pretty bold statement. So you don't have, again, the wives' tale. You don't have to spend as much on your amplification. I mean, it's not a bad thing necessarily, but you just don't have to do that anymore.
and I mean, if you have an overall budget,
Hmm.
you know, that $3,000 or $5,000 that you may save on the electronics, right, could go to the next model up of speakers.
Yeah.
Or some of the times the customization on it, or the expense at room treatment and stuff like this.
Mhm.
So saving a little bit of money on an amplifier that performs extremely well gives you the flexibility that if you wanted to be able to do that next level of speaker, the room treatment, the next level of cable, or a power conditioner,
Mhm.
right? It gives you
Well,
the ability to be able to get or
the Evo
maximize the
150's got
performance.
preamp outputs on it, so if you ever wanted more power, you could always use that and just run pre-outs on it and disconnect the speakers and use it as a pre-pro, a streaming pre-pro.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep all the nomenclature the same. Streaming amp is a streaming pre-pro, separate streamer, and there's so many good products out now. The Ever Solo, you're familiar with them, right? A Chinese company, I think they're making a great product. I don't think they make any amps or whatnot, but they make a really good streamer, which I demoed. Um, Telling you, man, we are in a renaissance, and I think Cambridge Audio is marching at the front of the line in a lot of ways in the products that you're putting out.
Thanks,
What
Ron. We
channel
appreciate
though?
it.
Don't you have a 150 coming, Jane, to review and
yeah, I
demo?
sent Coral an email the other day, so
Did you? Okay,
I'm
you're gonna
assuming
love
they're
it.
in. I'm assuming they're in IC right now or something like that.
Oh, they're
And
over. Mhm.
forward that email to me too as well. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
because
well,
it's
sure.
it's it's probably going to have to come from USA anyway and stuff like that. And,
Oh, got you. All
start
right.
doing the legwork for it and
Yeah, I
take
That's
just
care of
want
fine.
to hear it on Shane's virgin ears that he has because he's so young. I just want to hear his honest opinion.
it. Hey, 38 is young these days.
28.
He's a baby.
That
Yeah, right.
Shane's 48.
is young. I'm 58.
All right. Let's go off topic from Cambridge really quick here before we get out of here. So this week we had some pretty exciting news in the world of home theater. Steve, I'm sure you're into home theater and like movies as well.
Yes.
Don will have something to say, of course, but we have seen last week, a couple of 100-inch TVs drop for about $2,000 each from Hisense and TCL. Don, what are your thoughts on this new influx of television sets hitting like bargain basement prices, and how is this going to affect the UST or projector market? Do you think this is going to really put a damper on where things are headed within this year, next year, the year after that? What do you think?
Well, I've been pretty um, consistent with my message about after doing some big jobs with the big large view LEDs. I won't call them micro LEDs, but large view LEDs that are tile. They have the tiles put into them. We did a 220-inch diagonal. We've done some 180-inch diagonals. I mean, first of all, if you do something like that, no projector on earth is going to match that picture quality. And I'm not saying projectors are bad in screens. I love projectors. I know everybody's all amped up on putting everything behind an AT screen, and that's the greatest thing in the world. But the picture quality wise, there's just no comparison. There's just not. I don't care. I've done, Barco's and the high end flagship Sony, and there is always going to be a place for projectors. And people still like that cinematic experience, and I dig it, and I totally get it. But I think you're going to see a lot of my clients just want bright picture, and I think 198, 100, 110, 115, we're creeping up onto the big sizes, and eventually it'll turn into aspect ratios where you'll be able to do a 200-inch, 235 to 1 or 2.4 widescreen TV. It's just going to change the market. I didn't know the price would drop that quick on the 100s and 98s, but I'm glad to see that it did. I mean, 2 years ago, the Sony 100-inch was 20 grand and it was 16. Now the 98-inch Sony, 6 grand. The Hisense has got a one for 3 grand. That's killer. Then this is kind of a more entry level. But think about it, a 100-inch TV for 2 grand. That's amazing. It really is going
Yeah.
back in the day. I just think that you're going to see the market change. You've always got your home theater aficionados and the people that watch these shows that are always going to hold out and they're always going to have an argument for why their, 85 nit projector is better than this 1100 nit TV that has real color and brightness and picture quality. Whatever floats your boat, whatever you like, the market is going to change. For 98% of normal consumers, they're going to want a big TV, even if it's a little smaller, all day long off a two-piece projection system. I'm not a huge fan of UST short throw projectors. They're okay, but it's hard to put your center channel. These are all band aids. When the big TVs come out, you're going to see them dominate the market. That's just the truth. You can mark it, go back in this video in 5 years and go, he was right. I know what people like, and they like big, bold, bright pictures. They don't care about center channels behind acoustically transparent screens and all that stuff. If you're a purist and a big home theater guy, rock on, man. But you'd have to spend 100 grand in 15, 20 grand on a good screen to even approach the picture quality that you get from a monitor. That's just the truth, man. So you can argue with me all you want, but I'm telling you how it is.
How do you feel about the argument about direct view displays versus reflective displays? As far as like eye fatigue and long
Projectors
duration.
versus TVs, eye fatigue.
So you're not a proponent of the reflective display being easier on your eyeballs.
Steve's thinking. He's trying to have this really articulate, amazing statement back on that we're all going to remember.
Well, you know, I don't know if there really is an argument either way about eye fatigue, unless it was something that you spend 8 or 10 hours a day watching the television, right? I mean, how do we really
Yeah,
watch
you
a
got
movie?
bigger worries than eye fatigue. You know what I mean?
Right. So, so and I mean, I think that there's always going to be a narrative for people to be able to say, well, here's an issue with this, and here's the issue with this, and really what happens? Well, the consumer picks which one they prefer, and
Sure.
I'm along the same line with Dawn. I think that the larger screens, 100 and 110-inch screens and stuff, and their affordability is going to, is possibly going to chew into some of the projector market,
Oh, it's
right?
totally
I
going
mean,
to, yes.
and you know, and but there again, anytime we go bigger and bigger on TV screens, that just means that the potential market for a bigger screen on projector is there too, right? Because if
Oh, right.
everybody has
Yeah, there's no
100-inch screens
comparison
in their
now,
home,
dollar
well
for dollar.
then you
You
need a 300-inch projector to be
you
bigger than the
literally could
neighbor,
do
right?
a 300-inch diagonal, 235-to-1 direct view. The screens that are built with tiles in the frame, you could do that right now. It's just going to cost you $500,000 or more.
Right.
So a $80,000 projector and a $20,000 screen or $15,000 screen is a value proposition compared to that from a size to size comparison. Right now, those are for the ultra rich. However, I mean, Hisense is selling a 98 100-inch TV for $2,000 and probably looks better than 99% of all projectors for that kind of money. It's just a hard argument, you know. I just know from being to selling and designing systems directly for consumers, even back in the day. Oh, can I just do a big TV in my theater? Not really, because an 85 and a 22-foot room, a projector is the only obvious choice to do that, unless they've got crazy, stupid billionaire money. But as that price point shrinks, and they're just only going to get better at what they do. They're just going to get better and better. You're going to see the large TV, large display, direct view display market. We can't call them TVs anymore. Um, Absolutely crush a lot of the projector market. Not all of it. There's always going to be a need for projectors. There's always going to be situations where projectors are the only option. But eventually, that's going to heavily erode that market. And manufacturers are going to start really focusing on making bigger and brighter displays at a better price point.
Yeah, I don't think obviously the bigger screens, I guess the more immersive for right now. Obviously, it's going to still be like projectors at like 150 on up, but Hisense coming out with like 110, or is it TCL's got it like a 110? So
T-
they're creeping up
TCL's got
there.
a 115. Hisense is doing
Yeah,
it. From what I read, anyways, I wasn't at CES, but yeah, it's the tip of the iceberg.
yeah,
Hisense has really put a fire to volley across the bow of the whole industry, because Sony now is going to be like, oh, we got to have something that's $4,000 or $3,000.
yeah.
Is a Sony a better TV? Hell yeah, no doubt. But to the average consumer, guys like, oh, I can get a 100-inch TV for $2,000. Here's my credit card.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the reality of the bulk of the market. I'm If we're talking about the esoteric home theater aficionados, they're always going to have that special place. But in the consumer market in general, including a lot of the clients that I deal with who have means, but people always ask me, can I do a big TV instead of a projector? And now a lot of that is because they haven't seen a modern projector, a laser projector with a mad VR and all that. And they're going by what they see at the sports bar when they're eating chicken wings, which isn't really a fair evaluation. But I'm pretty sure if you take the average consumer and take a 120-inch screen and a 110-inch TV, set them side by side and let people watch them, I would say that 95 out of 100 people are going to want the TV, period.
And the question is for you guys. How do you guys think the TVs, these large TVs, are going to affect projectors? Leave your comments down below and let us know. And Steve, thank you for joining us today. Coming up at just 1 hour. We don't want to take up much of your time more. But thanks for coming on. We're definitely going to have you come back on after whatever announcements you might have coming in the future, if anything is coming in the future.
Absolutely. And thanks for inviting me. I had a great time. It's always good seeing y'all. So have a wonderful evening tonight. And thank you very much for the time and the hospitality.
Thanks for watching, guys. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.